Անուն Հոր եւ Որդվո եւ Հոգին Սրբո Amen. Բարի լույս ամենքիդ. Good morning everyone.
Good morning.
Today the gospel reading presents the story of the wedding in Cana, Galilee. On the third day it says, there was a marriage at Cana, Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the marriage with his disciples. As we are still in the season of Theophany, we are presented with this story of Jesus' first miracle, which St. John calls a sign. But as you know, St. John's style, he doesn't present just a story. He never was attracted by the sentimental value of the stories. He always found some kind of theological significance in every single story. That's why his gospel is very short, but it's very difficult to understand. It's a sign and symbol of Christ's revelation as the Son of God. The story shows a Son of God at work in our world, teaching us an important lesson about God and ourselves. Jesus performs this miracle, but we can ask a question, why? Why does he perform a miracle? Miracles are always performed with a divine purpose behind it. There is always a divine purpose that God puts behind every single miracle. And through miracles, he works his will. Oftentimes, a miracle is a way to show us in a small picture what we fail to see in the big picture. As St. Augustine reminds us, perhaps we only see Jesus turning the water into wine as strange because we fail to see and appreciate the spectacular chain of events that make wines grow and grapes ripen and juice ferment into wine. It's a whole process. We go to Trader Joe's and we buy a bottle of wine and you ask your kids where the milk comes from, they say from the grocery store. There is a whole process before we get to taste certain foods and drinks. And we tend to not to pay attention on that process. The process itself is a miracle. Next, in order to understand the meaning of this sign, we need to understand the significance of some of the things mentioned in this story. The water which Jesus turned into wine eventually, remember he said, pour water into the 6 jars. These big buckets, 6 of them, were used to keep water for the liturgical purposes. They used to wash themselves before they would eat and do other things. So in a sense, this water symbolizes the Old Testament, the law of the Old Testament. So Jesus, in a sense, transforms the law of the Old Testament. He turns, 120, 180 gallons of the law into 180 gallons of grace. He takes the guilt, the shame, the struggles, the sufferings of his people, and he transformed them into a fine wine, into a grace. So he can do the same thing with our lives as well. We give him our burdens, our shame, our guilt, regrets, struggles, pain and suffering. And he takes them all and he turns them into grace. The setting itself is also very significant. Wedding feast symbolizing the relationship between Christ and his bride, which is the church. So this was, like St. John mentioned, the first of the 7 signs that Jesus performed. Then he goes on telling about the rest of the signs throughout his gospel, feeding the 5,000 hungry people, healing the paralytic, giving sight to the blind, and so on and so forth. And then finally raising Lazarus from the dead. Why 7? Because 7 is a significant number, signifying completion. So by mentioning these 7 signs, St. John, in a sense, shows that Jesus completed his ministry on the earth. This wedding is also a foretaste of the heavenly banquet at the marriage between Lamb and his bride, the church, which St. John records in his Revelation, in the book of Revelation. The wedding couple that day in Cana may not have even realized that Jesus was doing something really important in their lives, that he was blessing them in a sense. He was trying to help them to get started on a positive note in their lives. Same thing with every single marriage. Jesus is real and present in every single marriage that we perform in the church through the sacrament. And he blesses the couple. And he is with them throughout their marriage life. We don't leave Christ here at the altar after the sacrament and we go on taking care of our lives. No, he's with us the whole time. The question is, do we see him or not? When they run out of wine, the mother of Jesus turns to Christ and says to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus replied to her, "O woman, what have you to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother, sort of almost like ignoring what Jesus said, she turns to the servants and she says, "Do whatever he tells you to do." So we can talk about the way Jesus speaks to his mother. In a sense, it seems very, in our taste, we are very sensitive nowadays. It's harsh, kind of, maybe disrespectful, but it was a normal way of talking to someone's parent. But the lesson is not, of course, the talking of Jesus, how he talked, but the lesson we learn is from the Holy Mother of God. Very often, we are broken in our lives. Things go wrong and we don't know how to fix them. We learn from the Holy Mother of God that Christian instinct, when things go wrong, you don't think twice, you turn to Jesus. This is what she's teaching us. She turned to him when something went wrong. She knew that he would take care of it. She did not necessarily know what he will do exactly, but she knew he'll do something. He will do something. This is yet another lesson for us. We pray saying, these are our problems. But we are supposed to stay away saying, and these are the directions for you to fix the problem. We say, these are my problems. This is what I'm facing right now. And we leave it up to God, how he resolves those problems. And what a wonderful advice she gives to all of us. Do whatever he tells you to do, and all will be well. Mary had faith that could trust even when she did not completely understand. She knew that by trusting and following her Son, everything will turn out to be all right. Her love, her trust, her faith kept her close to her Son, even through the agony of the crucifixion. Though it may be hard to our rational thinking, but we all have to ask for the strength to follow her example and to obey her direction. Do whatever he tells you to do, and everything will be all right in our lives as well. So today, I know there are so many other things we can talk about in this wonderful, wonderful story that at first seems very simple, but has so much symbolism packed within it. But the most important lesson I want you to take today, do whatever he tells you to do, and everything will be all right. We have to follow her example and remember that we have her as our relative. She's always there to intercede for us. And then her message for us is, do whatever he tells you to do. Amen.